Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with another Casting Angles with Mac Brown. How you doing, Mac?
I'm doing great. How are you, Marvin?
As always, just trying to stay out of trouble. And, we were kind of joking before we started recording that we don't really need to update the fishing conditions because you haven't had any rain. It's still low and technical, right?
Oh, it's still low. We had a little rain tonight for the first time in months, and it just enough to put some dots on the windshield, but nothing to write home about. I don't think you're going to have to worry about the water levels coming up any.
Yeah, and you're going to get a little bit of a cold snap here in the next day or two.
Yeah, we're going to get cold. We're supposed to get down they said the NOAA weather a little bit ago said single-digit winds, I think starting tomorrow night through November 2nd. So it's going to get cold. We're getting all the weather that hit Montana out in Livingston. I talked to some friends the other day, and they had snow and single-digit temps, and this is the front that hit them. So it'll be kind of good to cool things down, but it's going to warm up nice by the weekend.
Yeah. And so, the good thing is, even though we maybe don't have a whole lot to add to what we said last time about fishing conditions in Western North Carolina, we did get a fair number of questions on leaders, right? And we talked a little bit about that in the last episode. And, I think the great thing is you kind of have a simplified structure where you can kind of get away, let's just say for like dry fly or nymph fishing, really with kind of three sections of tippet, where I think you have a rig where you basically are doing 10 to 12 feet of 20-pound Maxima chameleon with 5 or 6 feet of 15, and then you're going to fish 2 or 3 feet of tippet. And you were telling me you generally are going to fish 4 or 5X off of that, right?
Yeah, especially in the spring, in like the low water, same kind of idea that you just said, and I'll step that down. Because I'm throwing a lot of this time of year, especially I'm fishing mostly a 2-weight. And if I'm throwing like a 2-weight, I like to come off there with say 15 pounds for the butt section. And then I'll drop to like 0X for the half the distance. So if I run 12 feet of 15 pound, I might run 5 or 6 feet of 0X. And then off that 0X, I might go straight to what we fished for midges the last few days has been on like 6X mostly if we're fishing dry. So I'll go straight to the 6X off of that and then call it good.
Yeah. And the great thing is that's, one, it's a simple formula to remember, right? Because if you go basically 2 to 1 and then you're going to fish 2 or 3 feet of tippet, you don't have to remember any kind of complicated step down formula, right?
Yeah, that's what I like about it. It's just, I looked at all that for years and built a lot of various leaders over the years. And it's like, I think a lot of it goes back to, everybody had their formulas back in the 40s and 30s in books. And even modern books still recommend this one over that one. And I still think all of them in general miss the point, because I think it's all about either energy transfer or dissipation. And if people don't understand that, then there's no one label on a leader that's going to be a save all be all leader for everything,
Yeah, but those 2 leader formulas will get you probably through most of the fishing situations on the dry fly and the nymph, throughout the year. And, people also were asking us about knots, and you and I were talking before we started recording. And I mean, I think there are lots of different ways to skin that cat. I guess the real trick is you want something that's, that's kind of skinny and kind of smooth in case you have to bring that knot through your guides. I don't know, like, some people like blood knots. I personally like double uni knots because I think I can time faster, but you had some even kind of sexier knots from the comp fish and stuff you might want to share with folks.
Yeah, well, for the say we're going 15 to 0, say we got 12 feet of 15 pound. I'll just take at the end. This is really simple. Just tie an overhand knot, but don't tighten it up, and just take your 0X and run it through the circle that the overhand knot formed. And then just tie a Davy knot and be done with it. Tighten up the overhand, tie a Davy knot, pull it tight. That'll never slip. I've never had one of those slip. And I use it for salmon and all kinds of fish. It's not just for trout, but you pull it tight, and once it seats, it jams down against the overhand knot that's there, and it can't come apart. The more you pull, the tighter it gets. So that's really simple. And what I like about it, it makes a tiny knot the size of a push pin. It's really, really small. It's not like an obnoxious, blood knot that's a 1/4 inch long. Because when you're dealing with those heavier sections like a blood knot's pretty ugly when you think about it. I mean, it's pretty big and, obtrusive. It gets up there if you ever land in a fish and you get that up in the tip top, that's kind of a nightmare to deal with. So I like the really small one because it comes in and out seamlessly and it doesn't get caught up.
Yeah, and we were talking, I think this has been a few episodes ago, one thing you can absolutely do too, if, take those knots and hit them with a little UV resin, and sometimes that'll kind of help you on the bumpiness front too.
Yeah, you can smooth it out, kind of shape it like a football shape. That works really well. I have a lot of the different UV resins, and sometimes I'll do that if I want to be fancier, but a lot of times I'm rigging them on other people's equipment because a lot of times they want to use, their rod and their setup. So if I'm doing it on the fly, like on a trip, usually I'm not doing the resin. But yeah, I have UV resin on mine just because it's quick to do at home, but I don't want to take out my UV light on the stream.
Yeah. And then the other thing too, we were talking before we started recording, those leader formulas you had, you really don't need an indicator because as we were talking, you can basically use, like I know Scafars are the chapstick size wax pencils, and then there's some that are larger. I think you said that were French. I know Devin Olson sells them on his website, and they're really great for marking leaders, so you can see what's going on and easy to take that stuff off when you don't need it.
Oh yeah, no, I like using those quite a bit. And what I'll do is if I'm going to fish a really light setup like what we're using right now, I think on the upper the other day I rigged one up on the 2-weight that was literally 0x for the butt section, and it came down. I was fishing 8x up there, and I just went straight, with that. And I was fishing really small midges, but at the end of the bigger section, I just took those pins and colored it and then put snow seal over it. And the snow seal, of course, floats it all up really big and high where you can see it all over. Because the water's so low, there's not a whole lot of super fast water that we're fishing right now. Fish are really starting to sit in their winter holding water more right now. You're going to find them in the slower, big, deep pools, and that kind of water is real easy to see a leader floating through it.
Yeah. And then of course, if you're going to fish streamers, it's really pretty simple because you can probably get away with probably 2 to 3 feet of level at whatever weight you feel like you need so you can get your stuff back if you get hung up.
That's right. Yeah. For a lot of the average size fish, like on the DH right now, 4 to 3X is really all you'd need. That would be plenty because we're talking like 10 to 14 inch fish for a lot of the DH. I mean, there's an occasional 18, 20 inch one, but you could still do fine with 4X for those. But it's not like the spring where we're throwing more like 0X, like on the Nanny for 6 to 8 pound fish. I mean, it's really, you're targeting smaller fish right now in the streamer game.
Yeah. And so, folks, we really loved all the questions, and we just tried to kind of mash them all together and kind of touch all the bases. If we miss something, let us know. But, keep them coming because that, we're here to answer questions and to help you guys have a better day on the water. And, as I always say, you can DM us on social media, email us, whatever's easiest for you. We love your questions. And Mac, before I let you hop, I know you've got some guide trips coming up, and you're going to probably book a few more. You want to let folks know where they can find you to book you to fish with you or to learn more about your schools?
Yeah, I appreciate that. The flyfishingguideschool.com for the schools coming up in the spring, and that'll have all the information about those week-long schools. And then as far as trips, just Mac Brown Fly Fish, and that's the same on Instagram, Facebook, and the website, macbrownflyfish.com. And that's how you can get a hold of me.
Yeah, and so if folks want to kind of do that intensive casting class, one of the fly fishing shows, where can they find you and Gary this 2024?
We're going to be Denver, Edison, Atlanta, and Pleasanton, and that'll be on the flyfishingshow.com website for that all-day class. That'll be on Thursday before all those events. The show starts on Friday, but we'll teach that all-day class the Thursday before for all of those. And so the sign-up's on their website.
Yeah, well, there you go. And as I always say, folks, even though it's low and it's getting ready to get cold, fall is still my favorite time of the year to get out on the water, and you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Mac.
Tight lines, Marvin.